The 1906 earthquake completely changed how we saw the science of earthquakes. The earthquake woke everybody up early in the morning on April the 18th of 1906. The epicenter was on the San Andreas Fault, just offshore from San Francisco, and then it ruptured to the north and to the south along the fault. Most of the city at that time was wood frame construction, but there were some steel frame buildings. And so the earthquake did a lot of damage across the city, but of course, most of the damage was actually due to the fire that then followed the earthquake. The fire was simply due to the fact that, of course, people would have fires, they would have stoves, like things like that were in their homes. You have the earthquake, you just shake everything and it just ignites the building. And because most of the construction was all wood frame, the city burnt. And as soon as you have several of these fires, of course, it's no longer possible to contain them, and the fire just grows and grows and grows until it's burnt down a very large fraction of the city. And so if you see images from after the San Francisco earthquake and fire, you see just dead flat landscape with all of the roads in a crisscross pattern, because all of those wood frame buildings have been completely burnt to the ground. A large fraction of the city was either damaged by the shaking or burnt down by the fire. So clearly a major reconstruction effort following the earthquake. This was at a time when they were just laying the first telegraph cables between cities. And so a doctor, J.D. Cooper, actually proposed the first earthquake early warning system. His suggestion was if you detect the shaking some distance away from the city, then you could use the telegraph cables to send the signal to the city. You would have a characteristic bell, as he called it, in the center of the city that would ring. Everybody would know that there was an earthquake coming. And in fact, it's only now, over 100 years later, we actually have an earthquake early warning system for California, Oregon, and Washington called Shake Alert. And so that has its roots all the way back in the 1906 earthquake. The 1906 earthquake was really critical for seismology and for understanding the earthquake process. Most importantly, we learned that earthquakes actually occur on faults. We didn't know that previously. So the San Andreas Fault was identified. And then secondly, we learned how this happens. The two tectonic plates were actually moving past one another. And then in the earthquake, these two plates would flip past each other very suddenly along the fault. So that's what actually causes the earthquake, as you have that rupture along the fault. In the Bay Area, the likelihood of a sort of major damaging earthquake in the next 30 years, it's basically a 2 in 3 likelihood. So it's more likely than not that we will have a large damaging earthquake in the Bay Area in the next 30 years. We know that these earthquakes are going to happen. We just don't know exactly when they're going to happen. We can look back at the 1906 earthquake. We can look at the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, the Napa earthquake, or down in Southern California, the Northridge earthquake. We see these events happening. We know what the impact is going to be. So we just have to build our lives in a way that it's sort of more robust, more resilient to these kinds of events.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube page. We have more great videos on the way, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all things weather.